I'm a truck driver for a moving company based on the East Coast, specializing in cross-country relocations that often span from coast to coast. My role primarily involves driving, navigating through long stretches of highway, with occasional pickups and drop-offs at customer locations. It's a routine I've become accustomed to after nearly 4 years with the company. One particular job, like many others, involved a lengthy journey from the East Coast to the far west. This time, it was a 30-hour drive, with planned rest stops along the way to ensure I stayed alert and well-rested. As I traversed through the Midwest, the monotony of endless fields in Iowa and Nebraska made for a tiresome journey. As dusk settled in and fatigue began to weigh heavily on me, my senses heightened. It's during these long, solitary drives that the mind can play tricks, conjuring up shadows and illusions in the darkness. However, what I encountered on that desolate road was far from an illusion. Ahead of me, a car sat idly by the side, its headlights piercing through the darkness. A man stood nearby, his presence immediately capturing my attention as I cautiously approached. His eyes seemed to bore into my soul, and a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Instinct told me to be cautious, so I maintained a safe distance as I passed by. I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror, watching for any signs of trouble. To my relief, the man remained where he was, his gaze following my every move as I drove further into the night. However, the unsettling encounters were not over. As I continued down the road, my heart skipped a beat when I saw another car blocking the path. Several figures lurked nearby, their intentions unclear. Panic began to well up within me. This was no ordinary situation. It was a trap. My mind raced as I assessed the situation. Reverse was not an option, as another vehicle had positioned itself behind me, effectively blocking my retreat. Fear gripped me, but I knew I had to act quickly. In a split-second decision, I decided to take a risk. I floored the gas pedal, my truck lurching forward with a surge of power. Barreling through the obstacles, I heard the screeching of tires and the sound of shattering glass. The trailer door swung open, cargo spilling out in the chaos of the moment. Gunshots rang out, piercing the night air as the attackers attempted to halt my escape. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I focused on one thing: getting away. I pushed the truck to its limits, maneuvering through the chaos with every ounce of skill I possessed. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as law enforcement closed in on the scene. Despite the chaos, I managed to escape the clutches of the attackers. Law enforcement pieced together the sinister plot, an organized criminal gang that had been targeting moving trucks, intercepting them to pilfer the belongings of wealthy homeowners relocating cross-country. It was a narrow escape from a potentially deadly encounter, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude for having evaded becoming a pawn in their dangerous game. From that day forward, I became even more vigilant during my journeys across the country. I shared my harrowing experience with fellow truckers and urged them to stay alert, to trust their instincts, and to prioritize their safety above all else. It was a stark reminder that even on the open road, danger can lurk in unexpected places, and it's essential to remain vigilant at all times. As I continue my career as a truck driver, I carry the memory of that night with me, a constant reminder of the risks inherent in my profession and the importance of staying one step ahead of those who seek to exploit vulnerability. It was late summer of 2011. I was almost 19 and was hanging out with my best friend, who was a few years younger than me. We live in a very rural area of southwestern Virginia, about 15 minutes from Mount Eerie, North Carolina. Around here, pretty much everything closes by 10 p.m., so you have to find your own ways to pass the time. But that was never a problem for us, as we could always find a way to have fun. The night started out harmless enough. First to the mall, then cruising the streets looking for girls, things any teen guys would be up to. When that proved to be unsuccessful, we just decided to go bowling until they closed. We then went to Main Street a little before midnight just to walk some of the back alleys, acting like the edgy badasses we thought we were. But we never felt like we were in any danger, as there isn't much violent crime in the area. After we'd walked all the streets, we got bored with this and decided to grab a bite from Waffle House, as this was pretty much the only late-night dining option at the time. After we ate and made a quick stop at Walmart, we still weren't ready to go home. So, we set out driving around some of the backcountry roads. This was nothing new to us. As I said, around here, you have to make your own fun, and late-night drives were always our thing. The stretch of road we were now on, I had only driven maybe once before during the day. Though it wasn't far from where either of us lived, we just had no reason to go down it while still in Carolina. The road is paved, but within a mile, it enters back into Virginia and turns into dirt. Like most of the dirt roads around here, the county doesn't really give this one much attention since it's so far out of the way, and there are very few houses on it. Since the road often washes out in the heavy rains, you have to drive much slower, and being as unfamiliar with it as we were now traveling at a crawl. While we were both more cautious now, it still just seemed like any other road we would drive on at this time of night. The roads are essentially empty around here, and with only a handful of houses on this road, we were certain we wouldn't run into any other traffic. The road is mainly all wooded and sits at the bottom of a small mountain. At night, it's easy to overlook any of the houses on it. We probably would have missed them all if not for, out of the corner of our eye, we noticed a light burning. We both looked and noticed a man standing under his porch light. We couldn't make out any features of the man, but we could tell he was watching us, standing completely motionless with the exception of his head following us. While we were both now on edge, we tried not to think much of it. We figured it was just someone stepping out for a cigarette. It's just his demeanor that was so uncomfortable to us. While nothing came from that man watching us, this was only the beginning. We gradually picked up our speed as we were becoming a little more unnerved the more we talked about it. Within just a few minutes, though, we came to the end of the road, and we were back on the hardtop road that I was much more familiar with and that I drove about once a week. He turned right, and we were feeling much better as we could pick up our speed and leave the thoughts of that man behind us. We enjoyed the sights from this road as it travels atop a small mountain ridge, offering beautiful views of the town below. After a couple of miles, we had reached the end of this road and made another right to make our way back to my house. This road is a little more wooded than the one we had just turned from, but I was even more familiar with this road as I drove or ridden it literally thousands of times before. As we were making our way back toward the main highway, we saw something up ahead in the distant reaches of my headlights. Deer are horrendous around here, so we figured that's all it was and slowed down. We began to notice it was much wider than the brown fur of a deer, but we're both used to seeing the occasional albino, so still assumed that's all it was. As we got closer, we noticed it was no animal at all. It was definitely a human, but hunched over with their back to us. They were walking in the left lane against traffic, as one is supposed to. I looked back at my friend as he asked, "What the hell are they doing walking at this time of night?" I looked back towards the person and could finally make out the shape of an older-looking woman with long, scraggly gray hair, wearing a white t-shirt and white pants. She still had her back turned to us until we were about 50 feet away from her. That's when she turned to us, and we got the first look at her face. I don't want to say she was on meth or other drugs, but that's the look she gave off. Deep eye sockets with heavy dark bags under them, greasy hair, and very aged skin. Not sure how old she actually was, but if I had to guess, I'd say mid-40s to late 50s. But that wasn't the worst of it. She put her hands in the air and started waving them frantically and running towards us. When she did, we could see what looked like dried blood all over the front of her shirt and pants, as well as what looked like a big knife in one of her hands. We weren't sure what she wanted, but that desire to be edgy badasses was instantly erased. We floored it and didn't let off until we reached the highway. We were so terrified of the entire ordeal that what would have usually been a 5-minute quick drive to my house became a 35-minute detour just on the absurd thought that she could somehow follow us there. In small communities like this, you know pretty much everyone, but neither of us had ever seen this woman before, nor did we ever again. We kept a watch on local news for any stories about a bloody woman being picked up, but never heard a thing. I can't even begin to come up with an explanation why she would be walking the backcountry roads at almost 4 in the morning in her shaping condition, with blood on her clothes and a knife in her hand, with all the risks of human or animal altercation she faced. Fast forward to present day, I now live with my wife on that peaceful road on the mountain ridge between the two roads of the incidents and take the latter one on an almost daily basis, and still have seen no sign of that strange woman since. Just earlier this year, there was a huge drug and cockfighting ring busted down the road of the watching man. I don't know if it was the same house, or if these people were even living in the area back then, but after all this happened, I've often wondered if that was the same house. Maybe that guy was keeping guard on the place. As for the woman, I just hope I never run into her again. Two summers ago, on the way back from an out-of-town day trip celebrating my son's birthday, we ventured to a water park and later decided to have dinner in a quaint little town. Despite some confusion from Google Maps' less than stellar directions, we managed to find a charming eatery tucked away on a side street. The food was delicious, and the atmosphere was cozy, making it a memorable dining experience. After dinner, as we strolled through the town, we stumbled upon a county fair taking place across the street. The bright lights, sounds of laughter, and captivating attractions drew us in, so we decided to explore it before heading home. The fair was filled with a lively mix of families and fairgoers enjoying the various rides, games, and food stalls. We indulged in some tasty treats and took a spin on the Ferris wheel, enjoying the breathtaking view of the fairgrounds. As the evening approached, the fair began winding down, but we caught wind of a tractor pull about to start. Curious and never having witnessed one before, we made our way to the grandstand and took our seats on the worn-out bleachers. Excitement filled the air as the tractors revved their engines, ready to showcase their power and strength. Families and some rowdy fairgoers surrounded us, but I felt secure with my 16-year-old son and a sturdy friend sitting beside me. Choosing to leave before the fair concluded, we walked back to the closed restaurant, got into my car, and set off for home. Following Google Maps once again, we found ourselves on a desolate backhill road surrounded by thickly wooded areas. To our surprise, a car behind us soon caught up, becoming the only other vehicle on the road. Initially dismissing it as another traveler heading the same way, I grew uneasy as the car continued to tail us on the secluded road. My discomfort heightened when the car followed us onto the interstate, persistently staying close behind. Despite attempts to lose him, the driver matched our speed, and the tension in the car escalated. With my son's birthday celebration turning into a nightmare, I knew we had to stay vigilant. Minutes felt like hours until we finally reached a busier stretch of the interstate. However, the mysterious driver persisted, tailgating us even on the highway. Fear enveloped us, and I prayed for a way to escape this unnerving pursuit. After a brief reprieve, the chase resumed when we found ourselves alone on a desolate stretch of road. The stranger's headlights suddenly illuminated next to us, revealing he had been following with his lights off, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. Anger replaced fear, and I accelerated, determined to shake him off. Spotting the taillights of a semi-truck ahead, I made a split-second decision. I raced towards it, using the larger vehicle as a shield. The relentless pursuer attempted a dangerous maneuver, swerving our car in an attempt to force us off the road. Narrowly avoiding a collision, we reached the semi-truck, whose driver sensed the danger and quickly grasped the situation. In a daring move, the semi-truck driver cut off the pursuer, blocking his path and giving us a chance to escape temporarily. Seeking refuge at a well-lit gas station a few miles down the road, we explained the situation to a police officer who happened to be there. The officer promptly called for assistance, and we provided a detailed description of the car and its driver. After the officer intervened, we decided it was best to leave the gas station, but not without taking precautions to safeguard our location. We took note of our surroundings, ensuring we stayed in well-populated areas and remained vigilant throughout the rest of our journey back home. The unsettling revelation that the incident occurred in the hometown of a prominent mental health asylum haunted me. The thought of what might have happened had we not escaped that night sent shivers down my spine. I remained vigilant, always on the lookout for a white car of the same make, hoping never to encounter that terrifying night again. It served as a stark reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places, urging us to stay alert and prioritize our safety.